when did it occur to you to say, you know what, let me try this out. Let me go to BKFC and let me give this thing a spin.
Um, I was talking to Brunson about, possibly he's got a card coming up with UBG, Ultimate Battlegrounds. So I was like,
Sure.
I would go to his gym every now and then. I was like, yo, bro, hook me up with a fight, man. He's a really good manager, actually. He gets his guys the right fights to boost them up. I was like, yo, hook me up with a fight, bro. And then a few weeks later, he hit me up like, what do you think about Bare Knuckle?
Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by a BKFC Cruiserweight. Makes his debut in the promotion on January 27th. Donterry Woods, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Taking care of kids, other than that, just enjoying the day.
For sure, man. And how does it feel to be making your BKFC debut next month? It's going to be a big fight for you, a big stage, man. Talk to me about, sort of what are the feelings for you?
Man, honestly, man, when I was doing MMA, like I was undefeated in MMA, and I trained with a lot of high-level world-class guys. And anytime my manager would hit me up and had a fight, my heart would kind of sink a little bit. But it made me train hard, but it was some fear involved. There's so many ways to lose in MMA. But BKFC, I don't have the same type of fear. Like, so when I found out from Derek Brunson, shout out to Derek Brunson, who helped me get this fight. When I found out, I got excited. This is the first time I've had a fight where I've excited. I'm very confident in my ability to box, and not just box, but put on a show like Roy Jones, and I really expect to do that on January 27th. So I'm really excited to show the world what I'm capable of doing with my hands.
Is that what because you said you're very excited about it more so than in the past MMA fights and whatnot. Is that what it is? Is that it's the sort of the ability to like show people what you could do? That's what's exciting you about this?
Yeah, man, because MMA, you don't take as many chances because there's so many ways to lose. There's so many ways to win, but you can lose in so many ways. You don't take those. Not everybody can be John Jones, Israel Adesanya, But in boxing, and I'm an athlete. You're gonna see when I fight how fast I am. I don't think there's anyone in this entire league that can fight, that can beat me. I believe that. I just gotta fight the right guys to build my confidence up to let my hands go. But I don't feel like I do about MMA, and it's not an arrogance. It's just like, oh, I finally feel what these really high level guys feel when they fight. There's fear involved that makes you train hard, but it's less fear. I don't have to worry about being wrestled, and that, I don't know. I think I'm going to do very well in this.
For sure. It seems like it's something that is going to let you show your full capabilities, right? No limitations like you just touched on. And you showed, you put on your Instagram, you said, now the world will know, right? Is that what you wrote? Is that sort of what you're saying here? Is that what you're sort of preaching?
Yeah, man, I think they're going to know. And my training partners, they've told me over the years what I was capable of, but MMA kind of hinders that thought of letting go, I just feel as if in boxing, I'm going to be a lot more comfortable. It might take me a minute or two to like really relax and then see openings and really let the world know what I'm capable of doing. But I'm very confident in my hands and my ability to box.
Now, when you look at Jonathan Miller as an opponent, right? Just picked up a victory not too long ago. What do you make of his skill set? Have you had any chance to even take a look into him?
Yeah, I looked into Jonathan Miller. I saw him actually boxing, and then I saw his actual bare knuckle fight. And I respect the guy, as a fighter. I think he's a decent boxer. I just don't think that he can beat me. And it's not out of disrespect, but Jonathan has a really good jab. I mean, I think he won his BKFC fight with a knockout from a jab. He's got a really crisp jab. He gets his head off. It's just that against a guy like me, you're gonna need more than that. With a guy like me, I'm a counter puncher, and I feel that Jonathan's gonna be a really good test for me because he's a dog. He's no punk, he's no chump. He's gonna bring it to me, and it's but anytime I'm faced with something like that, it just brings the best out of me because it has to come out in order to fight.
Absolutely.
So much respect, and I think it's gonna be a good match.
Now, look, man, in MMA, we obviously know it's not boxing, right? But it's mixed martial arts. It's the full spectrum. So you have faced strikers, right? Every round starts on the feet, right? As far as strikers, are you anticipating this guy to be the best striker you face, the highest level you face in the striking, or no?
No. I fought Brian Battle as an amateur.
Right, your last amateur, right?
And if you ever saw that fight, you can ask Brian. Like, I probably landed like 40 unanswered punches. It was crazy. I got tired and I ended up quitting, losing because he had a guillotine choke on me, a rear naked choke, and but like my hands were let go in that fight. It was the only fight my hands were let go in, you know, and that's when I knew I had really good hands. But I fought decent strikers. Kyle Wright, shout out to him. He's a really good striker, and Caleb Harris is an okay heavyweight striker. But those are amateurs. But as a pro, I didn't fight any really good strikers. They were just my last fight was a boxer, but you know I beat him, and the guy before that was an All-American wrestler. But yeah, the best striker I fought so far was Brian Battle.
For sure. Now, I asked you if you had looked into sort of your opponent, right? Have you had a chance to look in a more general sense at the division, right? Obviously, the cruiserweight division at BKFC seems to have a good crop of talent. Have you been able to sort of check any of these guys out and get a feel for the guys you might be getting in there with?
Yeah, man. I have. There's some guys that can fight, man. But like I'm really confident. Like I'm really confident in myself. In this. This is different. Like this is dealing with my speed, and I'm not even worried about power because I'm not trying to break my hands. But dealing with my speed at my size, I think they're about to get a real wake up call. Because and no disrespect to any of these guys, like one of those guys are my homeboy. Gustavo is my old training partner. Okay. Trujillo. That's the homie. So no, sure. he doesn't count on this. That's the homie. But those guys, man, like they've never seen anything like me. I'm too big to be as fast as I am. So I think as long as I keep this mindset when I go into it, doesn't matter who I fight. I just need to fight the right people to build my confidence up to start letting my hands go. Because I don't think there's anybody in BKFC that's really trying to put on a show, put asses in seats. And I think that's what BKFC is looking for right now. It's a fast-growing combat sport, and I'm sure they're looking for somebody's got to drop their hands and risk getting hit and pull back and throw a counter like some Roy Jones shit. And I think I'm that guy to do it.
Now, what's sort of the fine line between, putting yourself out there too much and winning? Is that sort of something you've been working on? Like, all right, I want to put on a show, but I also want to execute my game plan. Right. Is that in your thought process?
Yes, that's very important, man. I've talked to some young guys in my gym about growing too fast. Like you're gonna end up beating guys, and then you're gonna jump out. You're gonna keep fighting and fighting, and you're gonna end there with a hog, like a horse, and he's gonna be a dog because he's been drilling more than he's been fighting. He's been training more than he's been fighting, because you don't really learn from fights. You know what I mean? So you learn from doing drills and training and putting in the cardio. So I gotta be careful. You got to be smart when you rise. You got to give yourself time to get better and to figure out your opponents instead of just rising and rising and rising, and then you're fighting this guy you're unprepared for.
For sure. And speaking of, rising, evolving in a sport, right? A lot of the fights, your ground game was where you sort of like to impose your will and maybe get a lot of those victories, right? Now that you're in a sport where it doesn't include any of that, what's been sort of the biggest change for you? Because you obviously sound very confident. You sound like you want to make a lot of waves in this new space, in this new sport. But what's been the main difference for you, man, in this transition, do you think?
Toning down, like Brunson used to call me one speed because back in the day, because I used to throw as hard as I could every time I was doing something that was completely on speed. And I've been toning down that because I don't want to get into that hyper competitive mindset where I'm hitting so hard and then next thing you know, my hand's broken, my knuckles are cracked or something like that. Now I got to change my game plan, and the guy starts coming back and winning. So I've been changing the power output but increasing the pace. I've been increasing the pace and the punch output and moving a lot more to intentionally get myself tired to increase my cardio. But I've been told, like, we usually bang when we spar, but I've been doing that less to get in the mindset of throwing lighter.
For sure. And you talk about, sort of making those preparations and changing and how it is bare knuckle now, right? Is there anything you do to sort of prepare your, sort of your hands, I guess, for a fight like that? Do you do anything to harden the knuckles or anything? Because this is going to be your first fight, right?
You can see I've been conditioning my knuckles for a while before even this, and I've just been tuning it up. Like you
I see. Yeah. There. You got a few of them too.
Yeah, like I've always found a hard surface, and I like lightly tap it over and over. I do like 10 sets of 20 on each hand or something like that. My hands will be sore for a few days, then I go back and do it. I've been in hundreds of street fights, man. I'm from the hood, Monroe, Louisiana. I'm not there anymore, but I've been in a lot of street fights. Every time I've hit somebody, they fall down or go to sleep, and my hands were never ever hurt after. So hopefully I can keep that streak going.
I hear you, man. And it's interesting because I don't think I've ever asked a BKFC fighter that, or someone that's transitioning into BKFC, how do you sort of prepare for that? Because obviously without the gloves, I would imagine it's different, right? Just every punch feels different, right?
Yeah, different. Like you actually feel pain in your hand now versus, you know, when you kick somebody, you can feel a little pain in your leg if your legs are unconditioned. But it's different when you're fighting without gloves and protecting your hands. You're gonna feel a little pain when you land, especially if it's the forehead or the top of the head or something like that.
For sure. Interesting, man. And then I'm curious, right? Because obviously you said you were successful in MMA, right? You were undefeated. What was it? 2-0, something along those lines.
Oh.
When did it occur to you to say, you know what, let me try this out. Let me go to BKFC and let me give this thing a spin.
I was talking to Brunson, about, you know, possibly he's got a card coming up, UBG, Ultimate Battlegrounds. So I was like,
sure.
I would go to his gym every now and then. I was like, yo, bro, hook me up with a fight, man. He's a really good manager, actually. He gets his guys the right fights to boost them up. I was like, yo, hook me up with a fight, bro. And then a few weeks later, he hit me up like, what do you think about Bare Knuckle? I said, bro, I think I'll do work in that. He said, I think you tear them up too. And we went from there. So I trusted his judgment. And multiple other people said that I think you're gonna do real good in Bare Knuckle. It's just you got to be more defensive than you usually are.
For sure. And you know, you had a little bit of a time off, right? But speaking of MMA, we brought it up a couple of times. You were actually supposed to fight in August, right? Against what was it, Peter New? Yeah. What was the reason for that one sort of falling out? Was it an injury or something?
7 days before the fight, I get a word from one of the promoters of B2. Shout out to B2, they're great promotion. That Peter New needed surgery. He was injured and he needed surgery. It was frustrating too, man. I cried because that guy, I knew I was gonna beat him, but that guy was a guy I was worried about because he was tough. He was gonna be there. I think he's an Army Ranger. I'm a Marine. Like he's gonna be there at the end of the round. Like no matter hurt, tired, and I've never fought anybody like that. And so I trained really hard, like the hardest I was in the best shape of my life. And the fight fell through because I had prepared my emotions that I was going to fight this really tough guy. And when it fell through, it broke me, man. And I was ready to give up on MMA, honestly, on everything. I was ready to give up on everything.
Really? So you were looking to give up because you were anticipating a challenge and that challenge wasn't provided for you? Is that what it was?
Yeah, I was terrified of not of him, just the experience of fighting someone that tough. But I knew I was going to beat him. I was just going to have to dig down. And I knew that ahead of time. And I had prepared myself physically and emotionally for that moment. Like, okay, fuck it. I got to do this. Excuse my language. I got to do this.
No worries.
It fell through. It messed with me. It was bittersweet. It was like, okay, I don't have to fight this tough guy, but I don't get to fight the tough guy, you know?
Right.
So,
right.
He was my test.
For sure. And it seems like now you're going to get the chance to test yourself, right? So I think the cards sort of fell where they were meant to fall, right? I'm curious, right? You brought up B2, right? You just said they were a good fight promotion. It seems like you fully backed them, you know, and obviously you said you thought about retirement. That doesn't mean, that means I guess you're not retired, right? Which is, I guess, good for us fans to see you back in there. Right. Are you going to be back in there anytime soon in MMA?
Man, it depends, man. It depends on how well I do in BKFC. Right. If I can aim for myself in this and I can make a little bit of money, you know, excuse me. I don't know where it goes, man. I honestly can't promise anything because I enjoy MMA. I enjoy the culture and community more than anything, you know, and I've gotten better at it over time. But if I get the opportunity to make myself in this and boxing, which is my love, you know, I'm passionate for, and I'll get to do it because I'm not worried about someone shooting a double leg on me or kicking me in my legs, then this might be home for me. We'll see.
For sure. And, you know, if it's something that seems like it's more of a dream for you, I suggest, you know, it would make more sense to chase that one, right? And as far as, you know, potential, what do you see in your head, right? Like, what does your heart tell you? What do you think the brighter future will be for you? Do you feel like it's going to be boxing, or do you feel like, you know, I mean, obviously right now it might be a hard question to answer, right? Because like you just said, you're sort of taking it one step at a time, right? And it's probably not smart to look ahead, right? You have a big opportunity ahead of you. But I guess I'll rephrase a question rather. Are you feeling like sort of optimistic about your future at BKFC? Do you feel
Yeah,
like this is something that's like a new beginning for you?
bro. When Brunson told me he got the contract, I started crying, bro. Like, because like I've been through a lot. I'm not trying to give you a sob story. Every combat vet has a sob story, so I'm not trying to give you another one. But this felt different from an MMA fight. I felt like, dang man, I got an opportunity to really make something of myself, to show my kids like, dang, your dad made something of herself. And I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I kind of want to make BKFC my home. I kind of want to make it my home, and do for them what they're gonna do for me. Put money in each other's pockets.
Absolutely. Yeah, man. That seems like that's the motivator, right? Financially and the family, right? Those are the two
Right.
important things. And, speaking of BKFC, besides the championship, I feel like you kind of just hinted at it. Is that sort of the motivation, the family, the financial? That's kind of what gets you up in the morning?
What I think that's the answer for every person who calls himself a man, So yeah, bro. Like I actually tell myself, feed your family when I'm training. When I'm like on the treadmill, I'm running on that 10 incline for a mile, and it's killing me. But I tell them feed my family, and I feel different. The fear kind of goes away because I remember why I'm doing it. So my girlfriend has sacrificed so much to help me get in this position, and now I got an opportunity. So I definitely got to go and try to get it. I don't want to think ahead and disrespect any opponents en route, but I'm not trying to fight. I'm not one of those dudes that's fighting to be fighting. Like I'm gonna beat this guy and then beat the next guy and beat the next guy. I'm trying to be a world champion. That's the goal.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that seems like you have a deep rooted why, a deep rooted motivation, man, for sure. That's interesting. You got to feed the family. You thinking that while you're working out, that's some heavy shit, but that's how it should be, right? That's kind of like the primal instinct of a man, right? That's
right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, bro. Like, like I said, I believe if any person that calls himself a man in our society, I think that's his motivation.
Absolutely.
However you're
Yeah.
getting it, whether you're laying bricks or laying hands, whatever it is.
And what's interesting about you is you've sort of very much embodied that fighting man, right? Like you actually do it, right? Like obviously
Right.
you can embody it in many other ways. Like you could be a hardworking bus driver, bricklayer, like you just said, and you go out there
Right.
and fight every day, but you're doing it in the most physical sense. Like you're actually going out and fighting. So it doesn't get any more primal than that. Not to go like Liver King on you, but
Yeah. You can blame that too, man. It's a
yeah.
little
Yeah. Exactly. So listen, man, Salty Dog Jiu-Jitsu. That's obviously a gym that I've heard many times throughout the MMA circles. What has that gym meant for you as as you grew as a fighter, man? What has it meant for your growth?
Bro, I'll say this. First of all, Andre Hurd and Derek Brunson turned me into a fighter. And but Salty Dog turned me into a professional. And so, like, man, Salter has this thing, like, he's a wrestler. Like, he's a wrestler. So is Brunson. You know what I mean? But Salter is like he's John's gonna hate me for this. John's slow. he's not that quick. But John makes up for it with his technique. He takes technique and cardio serious. He pushes that. And so, like, when we're in camp, bro, camp is worse than a fight. It's death. You're ready to join Navy SEALs Bud team, bro. Like, it's death, and that being able to do that consistently for fights, to get in shape and accept that type of turmoil, that type of pain, and that type of, and being consistent in that, being uncomfortable, that changed me. That made me accept being uncomfortable. Like, okay, you can't be comfortable being uncomfortable, because then it's no longer uncomfortable. What you do is you accept that it's gonna be uncomfortable, and you get your ass in there and you get it done. And that right there made me a different person, not just a different fighter. It made me a different person.
Absolutely. And it seems like the way you approach fighting in your life, you very much have sort of that military, sort of that discipline mentality, right? And speaking of that, you served some time, right, in the United States Marine Corps.
Right.
How important is it for you to always rep that in your best moments? Because it seems like anytime you're at your peak moment, you're like, I got to tell people about that, man. I got to support that and rep that.
Bro, man, my boys that I served with in Iraq with, they'll tell you, like, I wasn't a Marine until I got out the Marine Corps. I was the guy that was always late. I probably had a grill in my mouth for formation. My beard wasn't shaved. My boots were dirty, but in combat, I was dependable. I was that guy in combat. I was dependable. You could rely on me. But back in the States, I was a shit Marine, man. I was always late. I was drunk in formation. I was the embodiment of what a real Marine was, like always in trouble, but he helps fight battles, you know? And the Marine Corps, I have to represent it because I didn't realize how important it was to me until I got out and got around regular civilians. And no disrespect to civilians, but they're different. They're a lot more sensitive. They're a lot more coddled. And I still haven't adjusted. And it's been 12 years since I got out. I still haven't adjusted to that. But MMA is like a place where I can kind of get to be that, you know what I mean? Because there's a bunch of tough men and women that I'm used to being around. Even when we're just joking, they're dark jokes, you know? So like, I have to put that in when I speak, when I fight, I always have to give a shout out to the Marine Corps. You know, they made me.
Absolutely. And is that sort of what draws you to MMA is, or maybe in part what draws you to it is, you know, a lot of those similarities, right, in the world, in the terms of the culture? Is that what it is between the military and MMA, or just combat sports in general, right? We don't have to put MMA specifically.
Combat sports in general, those type of people are different, man. Like it's something about them that people, even just wrestling, even though there's no like fighting involved, even wrestlers embody that. If you've ever met like a guy that takes wrestling serious, and I'm sure you have, you've talked to a ton of people, those dudes they're different.
They're different, yeah.
Mentally,
the way they train and prepare, yeah, for sure, man.
So like being around that, man, it kind of gives me almost as that brotherhood I got in the Marine Corps.
Absolutely, man. I love it. And one last question for you, and we really do appreciate the time. I know time can be very valuable during training camps and preparation for fights, man. So, you know, we mentioned before BKFC, big fight, or BKFC debut rather, big fight. Any final messages for the fans, man? Like what could we expect to see out there? Obviously, a victory is never guaranteed, right? You're fighting a man in there, you know, with no gloves on, right? But as far as overall, what could we expect to see from you out there, man?
Speed, quickness, something you've never seen before from a guy my size.
Love it, man. Short and sweet to the point. And hey, speed kills, man. So there it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Donterry Woods, he takes on Jonathan Miller at BKFC 35 on January 27th. Be sure to check that one out. And hey, man, thanks for popping into the channel. Hope to talk to you too. Hope to talk to you soon sometime.
Hey, no doubt, bro. Thank you.
All right, take it easy now.
All right, bye.